I'm one of the co-chairs of speech for the NCFL Grand National Tournament. On the screen here somewhere is Mark Riccitelli and also Dave Yastrzemski. They are the other co-chairs. And we would like to welcome you to this speech judge briefing for all speech judges that are going to be attending the Grand National Tournament in Washington, D.C. this upcoming weekend, Memorial Day weekend. So just real quickly, just wanted to do kind of a welcome hello and most importantly to say thank you for judging this weekend. Thank you for volunteering to be there. We know it's quite a task getting to D.C. We know Saturday can be a very long day with 4 rounds of competition, especially if you're judging all 4 rounds. And we appreciate it. We appreciate everything that you do, and we appreciate the fact that you're volunteering your services for the students. And it's probably a good time to remind everyone that just so that you are aware, every single person who is working the tournament is also a volunteer. So we're kind of all in this together in terms of the volunteering spirit. We are going to do everything within our power and on our side of the tournament in running the tournament to make this a fantastic experience for everyone. But we always want to remember that our primary goal is to make sure that our students have a really good experience. And for the overwhelming majority of students that attend this tournament this coming weekend in Washington, D.C., the overwhelming majority of them will leave only with your comments from the ballot as their takeaway from the tournament. The majority of students do not get medals. The majority of students do not get trophies. So that's why your feedback is so valuable, because for the majority of students, really the overwhelming majority of students, that's what their takeaway will be. So we always like to remind people of that and just to remember, and you'll have time to enter comments on your ballot. They don't have to be done immediately during the round, and we'll talk about that during the session. So again, we thank you so much for your volunteer. We thank you so much for being here tonight for this meeting. So our kind of agenda is after me, I'm going to turn things over to NCFL President Tom Beck. He's going to talk about the categories, and then we'll turn things over to Frank Riccobono, who's going to talk about tab room and any of the logistical things that you may need in order to have success maneuvering tab room. We know tab room is extremely popular around the country, but it's not used by every league. So for some of you, your tabroom.com experience might be new. So we'll help try to navigate you through that. But for now, to talk about the categories and a little bit of the specifics, I'll turn things over to NCFL President Tom Beck.
Good evening, and thank you so much for being here. I know I'm in New York. We're having warm weather today and a pollen count, so uh, it's going to be warm, I think, in DC. I've seen 90, so make sure you dress accordingly. Um, I want to just go through basically first, again, as to echo what Greg said, thank you, thank you, thank you. We cannot do this without you, and we're very happy to have you. And again, you are, as judges, providing feedback, right? And feedback is a gift, right? So with that feedback, what the student did well and what they could have improved upon. I've learned from the greats. Brother George, Sister Ramon, many years ago, always told me it's objective subjectivity and subjective objectivity. That's what this is about. So we very rarely see 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. It's usually 1 6 2 3 4 5. Everyone sees a different thing and what they're looking for. The meeting today is talking about what that kind of standard would be for looking at these events, what they are, and maybe help you give some feedback. All right. So I'm just going to start. I would ask if you do have questions, as Greg said, it's best to put it in the chat. Otherwise, it's going to be hard for us to get through it because I know a lot of you have stuff to do, as I have to grade a stack of essays before tomorrow as well. So I'm going to start with extemp. Extemporaneous speaking is the event where the students have 1/2 hour of prep time before they come to you in the prep room. They have picked a question and they are going to answer that question, not the question they wish they got, the question they have. And they're going to do that by using current events, maybe some, documentation of that. They're going to put together a speech that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. There is no required cookie cutter of how that's done. They just have to answer that question. Obviously, a lot of these are current event questions and deal with policy and stuff like that's happening in the world today. So again, we are all judges and we know we have to kind of think of our bias and let that go and just say who answered the question to the best of their abilities, right? The one thing that's interesting about Extemp is it's the only event that's 7 minutes with a 30-second grace period. So they have 7 minutes and 30 seconds. If they go over the 30 seconds, they cannot be ranked one. They can be two, they can be three, they can be four, they can be five, but they just can't be first if they go longer than 7 minutes and 30 seconds. You will, in the panel, have to decide who's going to be the official timekeeper for the round, right? So whoever that is, they have to be able to ask each student how they would like to see the passage of time, right? So that's important to kind of cater to each kid, right? How would you like to see the passage of time? I know in the Northeast, a lot of kids like to see 5 down, which means after 2 minutes, you show them five, and then four, and then three, and then two, and then one, 6:37. Then they have 30 seconds, and then at 7:31, they get the Sister Ramon Memorial Tea that they've gone over time, right? So they're going to be looking, they're used to that. They know that's going to happen. Some may have their own devices on the desk in front of them and are watching time as well, but you have to decide who will be the official timekeeper of that round, right? And cater to each kid. I always talk about years ago, there was a student that had a visual impairment and asked us to knock on the desk. Whatever it is, please cater to how they want to see the passage of time. If you say, oh, you know what, this is nationals, you're all awesome, I'm not going to show you any time, they will implode. They will absolutely implode. The timing and extemp is the backbone or the spine of their speech, and they need to know the passage of that time. So please make sure you or whoever the judge is doing the timing shows them that. I see an extemp on a lot of the tab room comments. A lot of you flow the speech as to what the areas of analysis were and how they've done that. That's great because it keeps you focused, but also be sure to think about what they did well and what they need to improve upon when they're answering that question. Extemp is the only event that is 7 minutes and 30 seconds. All right. I'm going to move on to our next category, which is original oratory. God bless these students. They have written their own speech and they are delivering it to you. It can be an informative speech. It could be a persuasive speech. It could be a eulogy. It could be anything they've put together that has a beginning, middle, and an end. They are the author of the speech, of course, so they've put it together. There'll probably be some background documentation in there if it's an informative speech or a persuasive speech to kind of make them have some background information to share with you. There may be like an I to a we, what they've learned by doing something and what we all could learn, whatever it is they would like to do with that. Again, we're looking at it as a speech event, certainly how they deliver the speech, the fluidity, the platform movement, all of those things. But because they are the author of this one, you can, like the stack of essays staring at me, you can kind of comment like, this is a wonderful opening. It really pulled me in. But now you're talking about, tap dancing elephants. I don't see how that connected to the opening, right? So that's kind of like talking about transitions and stuff, the way we would look at an essay. And obviously, this is a speech competition, but they're giving you the speech that they wrote. This one is 10 minutes and 30 seconds. There is no minimum time, but there's a maximum of 10 minutes and 30 seconds. If they go beyond that 30 seconds, they cannot be ranked first. They could still be second or third or fourth, but if they go over 10:30, then they can't be first in that round. Again, some students may ask for time signals in oratory. Some students may say, I don't want them, but you still should have somebody in the room be the official timekeeper of the panel of judges to make sure that they do abide by that 10-minute and 30-second. Okay? The next event after oratory is oral interpretation. This is different than the other leagues that are out there. We do traditional prose and poetry. The student has prepared a poetry program and a prose program. We will do a coin flip and alert everybody when the tournament begins as to what round one is, and then it alternates prose, poetry, or poetry, prose. And they're going to deliver that using the binder in front of them to kind of bring that literature to life using facial expressions, vocal variety, pausing, eye contact. Maybe they have focal points if they're different characters. Maybe there's character voices in what they're doing. But again, it's not dramatic performance where they're, free jumping around, whatever they like to do. It's pretty much gesturing and pivoting with this script. They can use the binder creatively as a prop to kind of enhance their selection. But again, I think a lot of questions come up like, what's poetry, right? Well, whatever ain't prose, we would think. But poetry doesn't necessarily need to rhyme. It could be one long poem, or it could be a series of poems put together around a motif or a theme, or just by the same author. It might be very intercut as far as how they do it, but they will identify, as the rules say, who the poets are and what the poems are that they're doing. Again, facial expressions, eye contact, all of that is important in bringing that to life. Prose is basically not poetry. So it would be things like a short story, a selection from a novel, perhaps. It could be an essay that someone wrote. That would be prose. It cannot be a play, right? Plays belong in our league in dramatic performance, okay? With all of these events, if you think, and I know the bylaws are out there with the ballots and they have all the rules, if you think there's a rule that's been not followed, we would ask that you keep it to yourself, rank the round as you see it, and then ask to see the protest team. And they will do the investigation. Tom, someone did, the odd couple for prose. I don't think that's a prose. Maybe there is a prose. I don't think Neil Simon did that, but we'll see. And we'll investigate on our end with the student and the coach. Okay. But again, poetry and prose is for oral interpretation of literature. Again, there's no minimum here, but the maximum is 10 minutes and 30 seconds. Again, they may not ask for time signals. They may ask to see time signals. Please cater to what the student would like. But again, someone should be the official timekeeper of the round for oral interp. Okay. Um, Going to our next is this. So duo interp. There should be two people there. We hope they're both there. Two of them are going to work as a team to bring you, or I like what they say, transport you out of the room that you're in into this world they've created with these characters. Could be humorous, could be serious. They each could be playing one character. They each could be playing 100 characters. But again, it's how they act as a team, acting together verbally and non-verbally in the situation, whatever the wants or obstacles are, whether it's humorous, serious, or a mix of both, right? It again, the one thing is, as the rule says, is they may not look directly into each other's eyes, except for the introduction or any of the transitional material that you may have in between. Sometimes they're very clever in their choreography, and it looks like they might be looking at each other, but they're not. And again, it's really, again, who transports you out of that room into the world they're creating, working really well as a team. We see with duo a lot, sometimes it's the way it's written, it might not be 50-50 as far as the lines, but it's, again, how they work as a team together. That's duo interpretation. Again, they may not ask for time signals. They may, but someone of the judges there should be the official timekeeper of the round. 10 minutes and 30 seconds. If they go beyond the 30 seconds, they cannot be first in the room. They can be second or third or fourth, etc. All right. And again, duo is, the kids love to watch it because it can be very entertaining. Again, it could be serious, could be humorous, could be a combination of the two. Then we move on to declamation. Declamation is our JV event where it's only for freshmen and sophomores. It's sort of the basic training or building block, if you will, of speech. So how do I, as a 15, 16-year-old kid, hold the attention of this room? They either have found a speech like a TED Talk or a commencement speech or someone's old oratory, or they've been handed, like I do to my kids, a speech by their coach that they have memorized. Of course, they're not becoming that person. So they're not becoming, if they're doing a speech by Ellen DeGeneres or Indira Gandhi or Ronald Reagan, they're not becoming those people. They're bringing the message of that speech to you through their freshman or sophomore self. So it's the basic training. How do I hold a room's attention? How do I use effective platform movement? How do I use vocal variety? How do I use facial expressions? All of those things kind of come together in declamation. Again, there is no minimum time. There is, of course, the maximum of 10 minutes and 30 seconds. If they go beyond that, they cannot be ranked first in the room. All right? And that's declamation. And then our last one is dramatic performance. Dramatic performance is different than a lot of other leagues in that we don't separate humorous and serious. It's together in dramatic performance. It's certainly the most freeing of the movement of the events that we have. That's where you see your double back handsprings and all that kind of stuff. And it's really, again, it could be a monologue or it could be 600 characters, how that student again transports you out of the room you're in into the world they're creating with these characters or character with wants and obstacles to overcome, whether they're humorous or serious, and how they kind of make that work using their voice, facial expressions, vocal variety, all of those things in dramatic performance. That can be a story, but most of the time you'll see it's from either a screenplay or a play script itself. And again, 10 minutes and 30 seconds. If they go beyond the 30 seconds, they cannot be ranked first in the round. Okay. In all of these rounds, obviously, you are the adult in the room. So we thank you again for being there. And if you're using your phone as a timing device or whatever it might be, that's great. Again, if you can give them the feedback, they are used to you and their coaches don't look at them the whole time. They're used to us taking notes. What Greg said earlier is some people like to take notes on a pad or maybe in a Word document and then later on kind of finesse and give their feedback. You do have time to do that. What you don't have time to do is we need the ranks. So the ranks are when the round is done, thank you very much. I always say a good judge is a silent judge. Just, greet them, welcome, quiet, and then when they're done, thank you. And then if you could stay in that room and do the ranks there, who's first in your opinion, second, third, fourth, fifth, then you do have time to do your comments later, okay, and put them in. And Frank will go over how to do that in Tab Room. I'm sure many of you know because I see many familiar faces who've heard my jokes constantly over the years. So that's just something to keep in mind is you do have the time for the comments. You don't have to do them right away, but we really need you to get those ranks in when the round is over. Okay. And again, I thank you for being here. It's going to be a great weekend. The Wakful team has done an incredible job putting together a great tournament, and we're very excited to see you there. I guess I'm going to turn it over now to Frank.
Sure. Before I do, we've been doing a good job of answering things in the chat. I think if some things that might want to get said out loud just for the sake of people watching this on the video. There's a question about OI emphasizing eye contact with the binder and audience balance and more limited movement compared to drama. So these are things that judges should consider as part of their judging. There was a question in the chat about whether all of this information is available in written form, and the answer is yes. So I shared it once in the chat already, but I'll share it in the main chat so everyone sees it. All of this information is available on ncfl.org. Our events, our events are all in our bylaws, and we include in here ballots and sample critique sheets for each of the categories that will tell you both what the rules are and the types of things you as a judge might be looking for as you're considering your ranking. So I shared that link in the chat.
And
Are
Frank,
there
sorry,
any
if
other?
I can just also add, that link is also on all of the ballots.
Yes.
So when you open your ballot, there'll be a link. There'll be a short description of the event on the ballot, and then also a link to that same page to show for the full ballot and critique sheet. So you'll have access to that directly from your ballots on Saturday and Sunday. Sorry,
Are
Frank, I
there,
didn't want to get that.
no worries. I was just going to ask, are there any other questions about event rules that you'd like us to answer before we get into tournament and logistics? Question in the chat about note cards. No, we do not allow note cards at the national tournament. And if anyone would like to speak, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. Okay, not seeing anything else in the chat, so I think we can proceed with the technology. Although, Greg, did you want to say anything about actual logistics of the where we are, what to expect before
Sure.
we go into technology?
So many of the rounds are actually going to be in the convention center, the what we kind of refer to as the non-dramatic events, which is OO, extemp, and declamation. They're actually going to be on the convention center floor using the pipe and drape method. So we want to try to make sure that we don't have a lot of noise in those hallways on the way to and from. So if you can help us with students and just remind them that there are rounds going on pretty much all around them. It doesn't mean that they have to adjust their speaking style in any way. It just they will be fairly small rooms. The Duo DP and OI will actually be in hard physical rooms. Most of those will be at the Marriott Marquis. There are a few conference rooms in the convention center that we'll be using as well. All of these are easily walkable for folks. There is a tunnel that connects the Marriott Marquis to the convention center. If I remember correctly, it's maybe a 10 at most 15-minute walk from the furthest most point at the Marquis to the furthest most point in the convention center. So actually, that's a shorter walk than we have been used to when we've been on college campuses going from one building to another. So you'll have plenty of time to get to your rounds, and we anticipate that things should run on time and smoothly, just because things are very condensed, especially on Saturday. So,
Greg, just to add, we also do things a little differently in the convention center floor as far as keeping the noise down and applause after each competitor. We try, there might be a little bit of quiet snapping, or sometimes we have some signs, but
Right, yeah, we're going to give everyone pallet signs to hold up for applause in the convention floor.
so just be on the lookout for some things that you might not normally see in a round, but the sound levels should be kept to a minimum on the floor, and hopefully things will be smooth.
all right, and I think we're ready for our tab room tech info. So we'll
Okay.
turn that over to Frank.
Sure. Let me take over the screen share. So the first thing I will share with you, you are among the first people seeing this. This is not yet officially published, but we will be sharing these with you on Thursday evening, is what we call the live doc. This is a shared Google document that we use to communicate with judges throughout the tournament. So information in here will include things like the full schedule, the locations of all the places you might need to know about, like the tab room, if there are equity or rules questions, who to contact for all of that. This information we're still working on reviewing. There's still some placeholders in here, like trying to get network information for all the locations that we're using. But this will be shared with all of the judges on Thursday, and this is your first piece of information. If you have a question, start here, because most likely that question you have is answered somewhere within this document. And again, we'll be sharing those with everyone on Thursday. If you have not used Tab Room for online balloting before, I'll be going through what that looks like. And if you'd like to practice with this, I'm part of the New York Catholic Forensic League, the New York League, and we've put together this sample ballot that you can play around with. Nothing that you type into this ballot will go anywhere except your computer. So if you want to play around with this and see what ballots look like, you can feel free to do that. And I've pasted the link to this website in the chat. So for this demo example, we actually have 3 different types of ballots here, but we'll focus on the first one, which is what a speech ballot looks like. If you're curious, we have examples of what a ballot for Congress or public forum look like. And when you see your ballot, it will tell you what you're judging. So OBT stands for online ballot training in this case, but in reality on Saturday, it will say something like DEC for DEC, EX for extemp, an abbreviation for the event you're judging. It'll tell you what round you're going to, what room or cubicle you're going to, and the start time of the round, and you'll see the numbers of the students who are in your room. We use numbers as a way of preserving some level of anonymity through the tournament. You will be able to see your students' names, but not on this screen. On this screen, you'll just see the 6 or 7 numbers of students who will be in your round. There's a lot of comments in the chat about ballot links being 404s. You do not need to see those ballots right now, but we will certainly look at that and try to get that all fixed. But we'll get those. We'll make sure that those links are all working before the tournament. When you get into your ballot, you can click this button to open your ballot, and this also sends a signal to Tab Room that you have started your round and that you are aware that you are judging. Once you're inside of the ballot, it will look like this. As I said, now you'll see the student names as well as their codes. There's a place for you to type in their title and or question. At the national tournament, we do not use speaker points, so this column will not be there. You'll just see a place to put ranks. So you can ignore this for now. And at the bottom is where you leave your feedback. Typically, the first thing you should do once you've decided who's taking your time for the round is take attendance. For everything except extemp, all the students should be there at the start of the round. Make sure that the 6 or 7 students who are in your room are in fact the 6 or 7 students who are on your ballot. It's very easy. A lot of these numbers can look similar to another, and especially with the cubicles all being very close to one another, it's very possible that someone is next door from the curtain they're supposed to be in. So definitely check that the names you see on your ballot match the names that you see in your room. In extemp, they'll come to you one at a time. Definitely make sure that the person speaking is the person you think they are. So if the first person knocks on the door or comes into the cubicle and says hello, check in and say, hi, and just to confirm, you are Sylvia, speaker 2661, right? They'll say yes or no. If they say yes, they can start speaking. If they say no, and maybe it's actually somehow the speakers came to you out of order, you should wait a few more minutes for Sylvia to show up before you let Carlos speak. You can type in their title or question. It's not important necessarily that you get every single word of their title or every single word of their question in here, but it is useful to us in the tournament office that you put something in here that can help us uniquely identify what the students are speaking on and which title they're performing. There's a space to write comments for everyone. In speech, this box isn't used as much as it is in some of the debate events, but you can put information in here. And as this suggests, whatever you type into this box, a copy of it will be shown to every student that competes in the round. So you can put general comments in there, like, great job, everyone. As a judge, these are the things I tend to look for. A quick summary of like what in the end helped you make your decision. But generally, you wouldn't end up putting too much in here for a speech round. Most of what you're going to write is aimed at each individual student. So I can say I want to leave comments for Sylvia. And then in this box, you can put in comments for that will be visible to Sylvia and Sylvia's coaches at the end of the tournament. I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend that you don't actually draft your comments in here. So yes, you can. This is a comment. And you can type in here. Internet connectivity can be very spotty. And what we've seen happen with this tournament is you'll be on this screen, you'll go to click save, there'll be some minor blip in Wi-Fi, and then all your carefully crafted comments will vanish into the ether. So I strongly recommend that you have something like Notepad or Word or a Google Doc, something that's a little bit more stable. Type your comment into there. Type while the kids are speaking. They expect that. They expect you to be taking notes while they're performing. And then when they're finished speaking, then you can copy and paste it into this box and save your comments. As the round goes on, you'll go through student by student. leaving comments for each student. You are able to edit these comments up until the end of the tournament, although we ask you to at least have a first draft of all of your comments in by the end of the first night. I think we were saying 6 p.m., but that cutoff is in the live, will be in the live doc. When the round is over, you can give your ranks. Again, ignore this column that says points. We use those locally in the New York League, but there will not be points, a place to put points in your ballot. So I'm just going to make up some ranks now. So let's imagine that this is how we saw things. You rank them in terms of 1 being the best in the room and 6 being the least best, or 7 being the least best, depending on how many are in your room. So let's imagine that that's our ranking. Again, please ignore this column marked points, but I will have to fill it in order to show you the next screen. So I'm just going to make up some numbers here. You seem to have missed 2. So I'll make up some numbers. If you are familiar with speaker points, I am being exceptionally generous with these points. But like I said, for this training, it doesn't matter. We will not be using points. Again, we will not be using points. But I will fill out this ballot, ranking our students. So I think 1 is Sylvia was the best in the room. I think Fletcher was the second best. I will click submit. It will now ask me to confirm my ranks. And what confuses people who are using this for the first time often is now the students' names will be in a different order. So they won't be in the order that they spoke. They will be in the order that you ranked them. So you can look at this screen and say, yes, definitely, after evaluating this round, I believe Sylvia was the best in the room. I believe Fletcher was the second best. Dulcie was third, all the way down to Joy, Carlos, or Christopher. If you're looking at this and saying, now that I'm looking at this again, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe really Joy should have been third and Dulcie should have been fourth. You can hit the red button, come back to your ballot and fix that. So we can make Joy third and Dulcie fourth. And submit again. Again, you'll get a chance to review this. And now you see, yes, Sylvia, Fletcher, Joy, Dulcie, Carlos, Christopher. That is what I believe the right answer, the right ranking is. Then you can click the green button. That completes your obligation for this round. And it is very important that you do both the submit or the confirm, or otherwise on our screen, we'll see a notice that you haven't submitted your ballot yet, and we may send someone chasing after you if you don't click both the regular submit button and the green confirmation button. Once you're done, this is empty because it's for illustrative purposes, but if you had submitted your rounds, you would have a place here under past scores and feedback. That's where you go to edit your comments. So all the comments that you added the first time around, you can come here and edit those comments up until the end of the tournament, and you'll be able to click in and see each of your students' feedback and update those all together. Ballots will be released to you 1 round at a time. Tabroom does give you this Tabroom inbox where you can see notifications sent to you through the system. That includes ballots, that includes emails that we sent out. But what is very important to know is the notifications are a one-time snapshot when the round is first sent out. We may make changes as the round begins, and we may update which students are in your room, which room you're going to, something like that. This screen, which you get to by clicking on your email and clicking upcoming ballots, this screen is the authoritative one. This one will update, say if we have to make a swap or change you to a different room. Always look at this screen and not the notification as far as where you're supposed to be going and which students are supposed to be in your room. Also strongly encourage you, let me actually go to the real tab room because I don't have it on my example. But in the real tab room, there's a bell icon here. You can click to turn on push notifications for your device. Encourage you to turn these on and encourage you to watch your notifications and watch your inbox. However, missing a notification is not an excuse for missing a round. We will be publishing out what we call the judge chart, which will give you a sense of what your day will look like, that you're judging rounds 1, 2, and 4, for example, or 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, 4, however many rounds you're judging. The public's times for those schedules will be published. So always refresh this page around the start of each round to see if you have a ballot. Do not say that because I didn't get a notification, I'm not judging. So I went through all of that rather quickly, and I was not actually watching the chat as things came through. But if anyone has any questions about any technology matters or logistics, please feel free to raise your hand right now. You can unmute yourself. Or if anyone has been looking through the chat, is there anything that they think is worth saying out loud for the recording?
Frank, can you talk a little bit about schedule? We've had a couple of questions
Sure.
with what schedule they can expect.
Sure. So if any of you were here in Chicago last year, the schedule will be roughly the same. So I can show you again. This is not official until we publish it, but this gives you an idea of what the rounds look like. So the rounds are about 2 hours apart, and Extemp is on a slightly modified schedule compared to all of the other rounds, but this gives you a sense of what the day looks like. And we will publish the final schedule on Thursday, but this gives you a sense of what Saturday is going to look like. And yeah, actually, yes, I can show you an example of a judge chart. Just give me a second to pull one up. This is from a previous tournament, so it will not be the obviously will not be anything relevant for this tournament, but it will show you what one of these looks like. Let me just pull it open another window, and then I'll copy it over. Just bear with me. Okay, so this is what a judge chart will look like. Obviously, this is not for this tournament, and this isn't even the correct number of prelim rounds, but the judge chart will have your name, and we'll try to sort this by last name so it's easy to find yourself here. Across the top will be each of the time slots, and then you'll be able to see, so if you were this person, you would know that you're judging the 10 o'clock round and the 1 o'clock round. The first two letters will be an abbreviation of the category. The second letter is which round it is, and the last number really isn't relevant to you. This is the section number, so this doesn't map to what room you're going to. This number is really just for us internally. So I would ignore the last number, but the important thing is what event you're judging and what time you're judging it at. And again, we usually try to publish that by Friday night once we're sure that we've gotten all of the drops and changes and the schedule and everything is finalized. Are there other questions? Anyone looking to get off mute to say something out loud?
Before we do that, I just want to add one other quick element is we all come from different areas of the country, and in different areas of the country, a lot of us have different norms. What we do ask is when you walk into the room, your job as a judge isn't necessarily to find a reason to penalize students by picking apart a rule and trying to say this student violated something. We have a protest committee that will be ready to look at any rule violation questions that you may have, especially if you find that something is clearly egregious towards what's written on those documents that Frank mentioned before. But we also recognize that a lot of us walk into the room thinking, well, this is the way we run our league in our particular diocese. Obviously, the rest of the country does that as well. So what we do encourage you to do is if you're sitting in a round and you see something that doesn't seem right to you, but when you look at the bylaws, it doesn't really address it. You can always reach out to the helpline. We will try to get an answer to you ASAP. Sometimes, depending on what you ask us, we may say, finish the round and mark it as you would if there was no rule violation, but then come to tab or fill out the protest form if you think you're ready to do that. We have a lot of folks that are here ready to answer your questions regarding those rule concerns. But please keep in mind that unless something is very specifically written in the NCFL bylaws, the way that your particular diocese may consider time signals or language or movement and things of that nature may not reflect what the national rule is. So we're here to answer those questions for you in case there's something that doesn't just seem right. The best thing you can do is, again, use the text line. We will get that answer to you as quickly as possible so you can be confident in your rankings.
Martha, you have a question? You should be able to unmute now.
Yes, thank you. How do you turn on push notifications?
So at the top of the screen, there's a bell icon here, and what you have to be logged in into your Tabroom account, but then you can click this bell icon and get that set up.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Other questions?
In response to room numbers, you will find that if you are in on the convention floor where you are sort of in the cubicles, they will be clearly numbered by row as well as each of the cubicles will be clearly labeled. If you are in one of the hotels, the rooms may not have numbers, but they may have names. So it's just there will be maps available, as most convention centers have, and some of them may be, Patriot 1, Patriot 2, Patriot 3, Patriot 4. And you just want to make sure that you try to get there as soon as possible because sometimes it is difficult to find the rooms. And if you're running at the last minute, it causes a little bit of chaos. So we encourage everybody to try to get to their rooms about 10 to 15 minutes early, just so that you could get settled. The other thing about the cubicle rooms are outlets. There's going to be very few outlets in the room. Now, that shouldn't be a major issue for our speech events because our speech students don't necessarily bring computers to their rounds. But as judges, you also want to make sure when you get the opportunity to charge, go for it because we're not quite sure what the outlet situation might be in the next cubicle you may be judging in.
So there's a question in the chat about conflicts of interest. That is a great thing to show. So I can show that now. So if you are logged into tabroom.com, whenever you're here and you want to get to something that's personally related to you, click your email at the top right. And if you need to declare a standing conflict, you can come over here to standing conflicts. Your screen will look a little bit less cluttered than this if you're just a judge. But on the right hand side, this menu will look the same. There's a place where you can record standing conflicts, and you can do those either by name or conflict yourself against the school. We do ensure that you will not be judging your school, and in fact, we check that you're not judging from your own diocese at this tournament. But if say you're bordering a state near yours or something like that, or you have children that go to a different school or very close family friends that you know are also attending this tournament, you can put those kinds of conflicts in here, and that will actually follow you around for the life of your time in this event. So if you're judging something locally and one of those students shows up, Tabroom will recognize that and prevent us from scheduling something against you. There's a question about the phone number. We will be sharing that in the live doc. At this point, we're still preferring people to contact through the official email channels, but we will make sure that that phone number is very visible in the live doc. Yes, time signals. We have a section on time signals in the live doc. This is an example of what they often look like. This is not required that you do exactly this, but this is a very common way of giving time signals that students might expect. So the idea is you hold up the number of fingers related to how much time is left in their speech. So if that's a 10-minute event, that means 5 minutes are remaining after 5 minutes have passed. Whereas if it's extemp with a 7-minute event, 5 minutes are remaining after 2 minutes have passed. And often students will ask to see that last 30 seconds or hold up a fist that means they have run out of time.
What we have found helpful at some of our tournaments this year is when a student asks you for time signals, physically confirm with them what you are asking. So if they want 2 down, okay, I'm going to give you a 2 at 8 minutes, a 1 at 9, a C at 10. a C at 9:30, a fist at 10, and then I'll give you the last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 at your grace period. That way, the student can clarify that they understand. We've had a couple issues at tournaments this year where when a judge gave them the fist, they thought they had already passed through their grace period. So by just confirming that with the student, it can be very helpful as well.
There's another question in the chat, or two questions in the chat. Curtains for the event. So yes, so declamation, extemp, and oratory will be mostly in cubicles on the convention center floor. So these will be, I think, 20 by 20 foot cubicles made up of curtains and pipes. In those events, in order to keep noise down, you'll also be sharing the convention floor with two of the debate events. We'll be handing out applause signs, and we ask that you use those instead of applauding in between speeches. Other than that, it's no different than judging in any other kind of room. There'll be a place for the judges to sit. There will be a place for the students to sit, and then there'll be a performing space at the front of the cubicle for them to perform. Another question about, is this an item, this time? So we will, like I said, this document that I'm showing right now is the live doc. We'll be sharing that with every judge on Thursday. I don't recommend you print it out because this is a document we will be editing and updating throughout the day. But if you want to print out certain reference pages, like these pages aren't going to change. What's really going to change about this document at the top are places where we have spots for announcements and updates, and maybe if there's any minor schedule changes due to unforeseen circumstances. So I don't recommend that you print out this whole document, but if you want to print out some of the rules, information, and some of the later pages, then you're welcome to do that, and we'll make that available to you on Thursday. Yeah, question about if we're providing the red cards like last year. I do believe we are planning on putting those in the registration packets. I'm not 100% sure about that. That's something that the local league is coordinating, but I do believe that we're going to be including those again.
And Frank, I can talk about the bracelets a little bit. So schools will have the opportunity on Friday to pick up a packet from the Marriott Marquis, and that information went out to coaches. And included in that packet will be bracelets for all students and for students and judges, coaches, adult observers, whoever has been registered to be part of the school. And we would just ask you to wear those bracelets on Saturday and Sunday. The rubber bracelets, easy to take on and off, but to wear those just so that we can identify easily people who are part of the tournament. Obviously, the hotel is an open space in the public, so we can't prevent people from outside the tournament being in the hallways and in the lobby and places like that. But it's just one level of safety for us, so that we know that someone is part of the tournament if they do have that wristband.
Really quick too, just to talk a little bit about observers, because especially if you are on the convention floor, we're not allowing observers into the declamation, extemp, or oratory rounds because there's not enough chairs, and everybody does need to be seated in a chair. Likewise, even if it is duo, DP, or OI, they're permitted to have observers during Saturday, provided that there is a chair available for them. That being said, one other thing that's been coming up recently is recording, where we've had people in the audience recording rounds, and that is prohibited. We do not have permission from every individual child's parent that they can be recorded. Even if that child's parent is the one in the back of the room recording, that doesn't mean that the people that are also in the room have given their permission. So if as a judge you see, number one, if someone wants to come in and observe on Saturday and you're on the convention floor, please ask them to wait outside the cubicle. They'll be able to hear probably what the round is going. But we really want to try to avoid the noise. And again, people cannot be standing in those cubicles, nor in all those other rooms. On Sunday, the rooms are going to be bigger. And when we get to those semifinals and final rounds, we will actually have staff at the room to help manage that. But we just need you to be the first line as far as making sure that students feel safe in those rounds and that they are not being recorded and that everybody who should be in the round is an appropriate person to be in the round.
And yes, just to clarify, those packets and bracelets will be available starting Saturday morning as well. So if you're getting in, I know there were a couple comments about getting in late Friday night. You really have two options. Option one is to pick them up on Saturday morning. They'll be available starting at 6 a.m., same locations. Same for if there are any hired judges that are here, those will be available for hired judges when you check in on Saturday morning as well. You also have the option, if you just let us know ahead of time, have somebody pick up your packet for you. And then when you get to the hotel, if they're staying in the same hotel, you could get it from them. So that's an option as well. We would just need to know ahead of time that they're picking up your packet.
Martha, another question? You can unmute.
Yeah, I don't know if you answered this already, but we live in DC. So what time do we need to get there and, in order to get the packets? And then also, does it say somewhere, I'm sure it does, what part of the convention center we go to? It's a huge place. I suppose there's at this time.
So it's exhibition halls A and B are what we're using for the tournament.
Okay, yeah.
And as far as time, so if you're local, it might make sense if it's easy to come at some point on Friday to pick up the wristbands, just so you're not rushing Saturday morning. So those, I think we're saying from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Friday will be when the WACFL committee will be there handing them out.
Okay. And that would be an exhibition in which one?
No, that's in the Marriott Marquis. The wristband pickup is all in the Marriott Marquis on the M2 level, which is 2 floors down from the main entrance.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Lunch for judges there will be a food court set up in the convention center that will have a place for you to pay for lunch. There will be breakfast available for all judges, but we are for tournament judges, you'll have to pay for lunch at the convention center or one of the nearby restaurants. Hired judges, Greg, you can speak more to the hired judges. I think there was another question earlier up in the chat about a hired judge item too.
So hired judges, same option on Friday. If you're local enough and you're downtown and you want to come by on Friday to pick up your packet, you're welcome to do so. They will have all of the information for hired judges also Saturday morning on that M2 level. Debate judges need to report by 7 as your first round's at 7:30, and speech and Congress judges need to report by 8 as those rounds will be starting by 8:30. So if you're a hired judge, you can easily pick up on Saturday morning at the M2 level at the Marriott Marquis, which is right near the tunnel that goes into the convention center.
And again, for many of our new folks, and especially if you've come from other events as well, remember you're never the only judge in there. There will be other judges. You should not confer with one another. You should be coming up with your rankings individually. Judges are charged with keeping time, even though there may be other people in the room who may offer. You are the person in charge of time. And also, especially on Sunday, just make sure that the adults that are sitting in the room are in fact judges, rather than someone's parent, someone's coach, who may be sitting there with a laptop open, and you start the round, and lo and behold, we find a judge shows up 5 minutes later. We want to make sure that before you start the round, you have all the judges. If you don't have the students present, this is something that's going to be unique to this tournament for many of you that have double entry students. Students should be there on time. That being said, some of these rooms are difficult to find. So if a student arrives a little bit late, we again show them grace. We can be very understanding, especially in the first 2 rounds as they're trying to navigate the convention floor or some of these hotel floors. But there are no double entries, so students should be there on time. But again, if someone does show up late, please, show them grace. give them the great, encouragement. They may be nervous, they may be flustered because they've been running around trying to find your room. When they arrive, welcome them in. If there's something that you're a little concerned about, feel free to email the helpline and we'll give you further guidance.
I also shared a link in the chat to the slideshow from the moderators meeting we had yesterday. A lot of this logistical information about the tournament beyond just speech is answered in that presentation. So I encourage folks to read through that too. Your league director should be disseminating that information to all of your schools, but just in case they haven't done so already, that information is all public on the NCFL National site. There's a question in the chat about eye contact for OI. So there's a rule that there should be a balance of eye contact between the audience and the binder. What does a balance mean? That's something that's up to judge discretion. So it's not that there must be 50% up, 50% down or anything like that, just that there must be a balance. And that's a criteria that you can factor in. If they're glued to their book and you think that's distracting, that's something you can comment on. Or if they never look at the book whatsoever, that's something you can comment on. But it's not that we prescribe a specific ratio of up or down eye contact.
So I think I'm going to suggest at this point, obviously, if you have questions or if there are things that you'd like more information about, you're more than welcome to stay on. But this is really the bulk of the information that we have to provide to all of you. So if you don't have any questions, then we would invite you, feel free to log off at this point. We look forward to seeing you all this weekend in Washington, D.C. Thank you again for being here tonight. And thank you again for all that you're going to do for our students this weekend. We really, really appreciate it. And as Tommy said, we literally could not do this without you. So thank you, everyone. And again, we will stay on. So if people do have questions, feel free to stick around. But if you are done, there's no reason, if you feel good and don't have any questions, no need to stay on at this point.